Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. We would like to apologize for late connection. We apologize because we had some technical problems. We shall start right away. And during this meeting, the company will be represented by the management board and Rafał Lechowicz, the CEO of Alupol Packaging SA. After the presentation, as always, I would like to kindly ask you to send your questions via email to mmalina@grupakety.com or via the chat in Zoom. And I will share my display, my screen in a moment. All right, we can start right now. And Dariusz Mańko, the chairman of the board, will start with an introduction. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. Unfortunately, we are unable to see each other face to face yet another time. We just have to use the resources that we have at hand, although they proved to be problematic just a moment ago, so I only hope that you can see and hear me very well. Well, definitely we are missing our normal meetings when we are able to talk about the company and the future of the company. Well, those conversations are always very interesting, and this way we can only answer your questions that are asked electronically. So if you have any questions, please fire away. We will be more than happy to clear any doubts that you may have about the company. Well, a few words about the current situation, and then I will give the floor to my colleagues to talk about their respective areas. Talking about the group, well, in all plants of the group, in all areas, the results are very good. The demand is really high, and this is an advantage and unbelievable convenience. But after big demand, we always ask ourselves a question: why didn't we invest earlier, maybe quicker? And this is a sort of a sweet problem, because orders and customers are always the most important for the company. So the problem is not as bad when we talk about investment, not about orders. So we are actually standing up to the situation, and we think about the future. So what can we tell you about the global situation in order for you to get the feeling of the environment around the company? We may say that in all segments we became very European. So that means that the objectives that we had in the past, and we've worked so hard to achieve them, so to reach 50% of sales abroad, happened, and we feel very European right now, because in the past the big players were coming only to Tychy, to flexible packaging segment plant, and other segments may have been jealous about those big players. But right now the situation happened to extruded products, and I am talking mostly about automotive companies, and also in aluminium segment, which is a recognizable brand with good products around Europe. So in fact, geographically, we've opened them all segments to the European market, and Poland and the internal demand is just a little part of what can be sold around Europe, and this is a very good forecast for the future. Which what still may be a problem are the prices of the raw materials, of semi-finished products, which are growing like crazy. and there is still a lot of work to be done in purchases in order to secure our company and to feel safer. But the other problem is also how to translate those prices into our customers. In some areas we have formulas that can be used, but in other areas we had to create new price lists, and definitely we will hear more about that. And this year is a very specific year. It's very special year when it comes to those prices. Because in the past we could use the same price list for a year or two, and the situation is not happening anymore because, well, we definitely had to increase our prices. And, well, operation is running very smoothly without any disturbances, and our devices are fully booked. Well, and in connection with that, we've decided to invest in new areas, and we've sent to you and to the market some piece of information, an updated investment program and financial forecasts. But let me stop here and talk more about the investment product. Well, this program came. Well, let me clear some questions. Well, it is not connected with the process that is happening in the flexible product segment because it is continued, and nobody knows right now how this will end. But this is mostly because of high demand in extruded and aluminium segment, and because we are observing the growing demand and our geographical opening to new markets and to new big customers, especially in automotive industry. These are the main reasons why we've decided to expand our investment program. Well, we can definitely build new presses, new capabilities. These are very secure capabilities because we continue to order aluminium profiles externally. So we still have a backup and orders in Aluprof. So those capabilities will never be unbooked, non-booked. But we are not afraid of that because the contracts in automotive are very promising, and we are talking about different amounts in automotive segment. Well, definitely we are talking about lower volumes and profits in the past, and today we have a very serious situation, and we hope that the demand will be growing here because automotive has no return from the changes. Well, we are also hoping for Aluprof base, the second one, and we decided to build a copy of Bielsko plant. So we were missing some warehouse space, and we've decided to do it, and we've decided that we have to have a strong position in Europe, and we are on a good path to do it. So warehouse space and production capabilities are a necessity for us. We had to do it. And in this respect, we are very optimistic. And shortly speaking, the events that happened this year and the updated forecast or investment forecast made us believe that the strategy that we've presented to you is not in threat, the 5-year-long strategy, or maybe the results will be even better. Well, we are actually informing you about it on ongoing basis, and we are quite optimistic. Let me put it this way. the consumption of aluminium, not just in Poland but in Europe, is growing, and the indicators per capita saying 5 kilograms per capita per person, or 20 in the US or Japan, those indicators are growing. So Poland still has to do a lot to catch up. And those indicators are simply growing because, as you know, on everyday basis, aluminium is becoming more and more important at a cost of, for instance, plastic. And shortly speaking, we have no other way but to do it but succeed, and I'm very happy about it. And this is how I should end my presentation. And the financial results on the next slide will be discussed in detail by the financial director, but I'm sure you've familiarized with those financial results already. So always when we see a green arrow pointing up, regardless of the amounts, this definitely looks well and feels good. I encourage you to buy the shares of Kente Group, because this is a very good company, a company that will definitely follow its policy strategy, 5-year long strategy. We will definitely be a company that delivers good results. So thank you so much, and I'll be happy to answer all your questions. And now I'll give the floor to Rafał. Thank you, Chairman. And of course, the encouragement shared by the Chairman was not an official offer as defined by the bill on the share trading. So now, moving on to flexible packaging segments. Thank you. Rafał Lechowicz, flexible packaging segment. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'll be happy to present the results of Alupol. In other words, flexible packaging segment after the second quarter of 2021 and 6 months of 2021. Well, you know those results, so you know that this was yet another record-setting quarter in the history of the company. Well, we were very happy to see that those results were achieved during fluctuating market. You have to remember what was happening to the raw materials in the past months. As you can see on the graphs that are presented here, the prices went up twice, so on the LDPE granules and PP granules. In the past 3 months, the trend in the PP granules reversed, but aluminium foil film prices grew and paper prices grew. And during this difficult time, Alupol Group showed yet another time that we are able to use the periods when the raw materials are not easily available. We've taken very important decisions in sales and purchases, and that translated into very spectacular results, and I'd like to present them to you. And now let's move on to the next slide. During the second quarter, despite aggressive activities of our competitors, Alupol increased sales by 20%, especially in BOPP films. And this business was the main contributor to a record high sales, 3 million worth sales. During the second quarter, the operational profit was 93 million zloty, 41 million contributed by packaging and Please note 52 million generated by films. During the same time, EBITDA grew to 101 million zloty, and the packaging segment with the profit with 33% profitability generated 47 million, and films over 50 million zloty with the same margin. Well, it was the first time for me to see on the markets that we serve on the packaging or film markets with such high margin, over 30% margin in recorded by any of our competitors. During 6 months, the sales of Alupol reached 590 million zloty, and it seems that this year we will go beyond this magical threshold, 1 billion of turnover in the whole group. Operational profit grew by over 50% from 105 to over 160 million. EBITDA reached 178 million zloty, and the EBITDA margin was amazing. That was over 30% during the 6 months. And during the same time, we've recorded very dynamic 50% growth, net growth, as compared to the previous year, from 87 million to 128 million zloty. And BOPP sales growth that was higher for the first time in the history, higher than packaging, was a one-off event. Please treat it this way. That was a result of very high raw material prices. That was never seen before. Export is growing. It is always a good news, because it is 57% of the whole sales in flexible packaging segment. And we continue very high, 85% of use of production capabilities. It is lower than in the second quarter of 2020, but you have to remember that last year it was the time of great panic that was associated with the with the pandemic, because the customers were afraid that the chain of deliveries may be broken, and they were making inventories. And now, talking about the future, despite a very tough market, you've seen the EBITDA forecast for 2021, and we believe that this parameter will grow from 230 million zloty, that was reached in 2020, to 280 million zloty in 2021. In order to deliver this kind of good results, we will use the investment plan, which is nearly 60% done already. And I believe that this is a very positive accent, and it is a good way to finish my presentation. And of course, I will be happy to stay with you until the end of the conference. Thank you. And now let's move on to the extruded products segment. And Piotr Wepechowski. Well, this is the segment of extruded products segment. Unfortunately, a very bad sound quality. So first of all, we are working on a very high prices of aluminium. And that was the first time in the history where the billets are over 1200 right now. And the sound is gone. So please speak louder. This is what the host says. So we are working on very high level, price level of aluminium. So 1200 and higher. This is something that never happened before. And of course, the demand is really high on the market and a very good situation on the market when it comes to the orders. Well, definitely this will translate into efficient use of production capabilities. High prices on the market, high prices of the raw materials, and despite that, we still have high levels of orders from our clients. A very good situation in Poland and in Europe. We start to see on the market that there is a problem with the purchase of the raw material. So if somebody has no long-term contracts, this may prove to be problematic. We can also see the situation in the production capabilities here in extruded products. So the sales went up by 14%. The change is 38% here. So this is also the result of high prices of aluminium and billets. Ebitda is doing very well, growing nicely. This is the hard work of the trade offices. We are using the high level of orders and we are increasing our prices. We must actually increase our prices because of the aluminium prices, LMI. So because all our prices are basing on that. So again, talking about $1,300, this is the price. So we may say that this year is a very tough year for trade offices because we have some technical problems. So the trade offices not only have to attract new orders, but also increase the prices. And you can see it when we compare the EBITDA year on year. Well, what the chairman has said, we focus on automotive industry. You can see that, well, 10% growth in the second quarter, 10% growth of the share of transport and automotive industry. This is in line with our strategy. Today we may say that the second, well, the biggest internal customer is Aluprof, and the biggest external customer is an automotive company. And I can only say that these are long-term contracts. We worked on that. We've met all the requirements of the automotive industry. Those requirements are very strict, and the entry level is really high, and we met all of those requirements, and we have contracts right now, but we are talking about thousands of tons. And soon I will show you there is also a new investment mentioned by the chairman. And so this is a dynamically growing market. And we are also becoming a very strong and serious player on this market. Well, domestic sales. Of course, it's still 60 to 40 ratio. For us, domestic market is important, but when we look at Germany, there is a small drop. This is connected with the use of capabilities is 99%, and we are starting to optimize the portfolio of our customers, foreign customers, and today we are in a situation when we can choose our customers without losing contact with the customers that we care about, who we care about. Well, the maximum use of the production capabilities, talking about the investment, aluminium profiles. So these matrices, production devices, 2000 press, winning a license, receiving a license. We had some preparatory works for 2000 press construction. Next slide, please. Now talking about the investment, well, this is a new investment product is to expand our capabilities. 2000 T press, well, we've started implementing that, but seeing how this market is developing, mostly automotive market, well, we've decided to increase the expenditures and add 4000 T press, and this will be one complex of two presses. 2 years ago we bought land. We have space for that. We have an idea how to make use of it, and today we are talking to the companies, automotive companies, and because of that we are sure that this is a necessity. We additionally we add 17,000 tons to the strategy, and this is generally dedicated. If we had this press today, well, it was fully booked. It would be fully booked with the contracts that we already have on our desks. In our production plant in Slovenia, Aluminium Kęty, we are also increasing the capex and expenses. We are constructing a new line to manufacture electric cars, elements, parts for the electric cars. So in addition to the deliveries of those parts, we will also offer a simple assembly in our plants. This is an American manufacturer of electric cars, and we were nominated, and that means that we have this contract. We are prototyping right now, and by the end of 2022, we will start doing that, and this is a schedule of deliveries of those parts for electric cars. We are talking about 2022. So until the whole line is built, we will be using the devices that we have in order to deliver the volume that we have. So that's all from the extruded product segment. Thank you so much. Now let's move on to the Aluminium System segment, and Tomasz Gorela. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Let's start with the information that we've reached almost 500 million zloty in sales last quarter. This is unquestionably the first time in the history. And year on year, we are talking about 30% growth from a very high level last year. This is a very good news and very optimistic news because we've been actually observing the past months. Closed July and contracted August would indicate 20% growth, and the forecast until the end of the year are also as optimistic and showing the similar level. Why is that? Well, the building market that worried us so much in connection with the pandemic situation. So hotels, office buildings, and shopping centers proved to be more optimistic, and there are no drops in sales in this segment. On the contrary, well, the objects that will be done next year show us very interesting portfolio in Poland and in Europe, including the facility in Caribbean, and that translates into increased turnover in our segment. But not just that. In addition to the facility segment, a high growth in the basic segment, so among the window and door and small facilities and apartment building companies, because we are observing the growth of the growing use of aluminium as compared to wood or PCV. And according to our forecast, we talked about that a few years ago, that this is the trend, and Poland will become part of this trend, and we are just making use of the situation, taking the opportunities, and our share will be growing systematically, especially that this year and next year means hard work on semi-finished products, which will be introduced next year. Greatly, this is a group of products dedicated to retail customer, and we hope that this will again translate into another growth of sales. Now talking about foreign markets, all markets have bounced back after the pandemic, and the UK saw an important market for us with the biggest drops last year. Right now it is showing the biggest dynamic in sales. A good surprise is our sales in Ukraine, a strong bounce back in the supply of large facilities, and our share is growing in that market, and we hope that this trend in Eastern markets will continue. What else? I would also like to tell you that an interesting piece of information, that we've signed a contract with a big potential Chinese market. This is the market that is a very big market. This is the second biggest market right after the US. And our expectations here are really good. After many months of work of our trade specialists, we were able to sign this contract, and we hope that in the future this will mean our presence on Eastern markets. But of course, we are not just working in China, but also in other exotic markets, for instance, Canada or Australia. Now, disadvantages of the current situation, that is very unique for us. So we are talking about dynamic growth of prices of raw materials, which was mentioned here. So this is the one thing. Also, the lacks of those raw materials. You have to imagine that we have to have 25,000 elements, and one missing element will mean that we won't be able to manufacture a certain product. So, for instance, without an element, you cannot manufacture a window. So the way of our work is focusing not just on the sales growth, but on ensuring that the deliveries and the supplies to our customers are continued. And this is where the problem lies. Because we are working, our logistical and production capabilities are almost exhausted. Therefore, this quick decision of the management board to expand our production capabilities, mentioned by the chairman, and next year we would like to start launch the additional production and warehouse capabilities in Złotów plant. A target number would be 75% growth more of our capabilities. So this would be Aluprof BIS, a working name. So additional plant which will help us to serve our customers in Poland and abroad. And this uniquely high sales translated into good results in EBITDA profit, over 90 million zloty profit, 23% growth year on year. Despite high prices of the raw materials, we are able, with the increased prices twice this year, but mostly with the help of the high volume, we are able to maintain high margin that is right now 18.5%. And we hope that this year, despite the growing prices of the raw materials, we will be able to end this year on the similar level. All other investments that were started or planned in the budget or in our strategy are continued according to the plan. Soon we will launch a hall in Opole that is practically finished, and other investments that you know from today's presentation are continued according to the plan. So non-operational information. The second quarter also means that we started rebranding our brand. We changed our logo, the colors, and the motto of our company that was well received by our customers, but by the professionals who analyze the professionals in the marketing industry, and we hope that this will be a good sign for the future. And in that time, we also finished our TV campaign. It ended in June, and the summary that we've received also indicates that the form of the commercial and the content warmly received. We also received a lot of signals from our clients, and in addition to that, a good relationship with the end customer, who was the main recipient of the commercial. That's all from me right now. Thank you so much. Thank you. Now let's move on to the financial part. And Director Rafał Warpechowski, over to you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Well, the second quarter was yet another quarter where we were able to maintain the dynamic improvement of results year on year. What we are presenting you on the slide is a reflection of their revenues went up by 30%. This is a quarter of billion. All segments contributed to that trend, which is a good news, but it was also a demanding quarter for us because of the fluctuations in prices and in the availability of the raw materials, but also high demand and the necessity to be very efficient operationally in order to meet the demand and to keep the production capabilities. So EBITDA profit 252 million zloty, 35% change year on year. That translates into very good net result because the financial cost 2 million zloty were practically interest rates after tax 162 million profit and 300 million zloty after 6 months. So this shows you the scale of the results that we are achieving. Good results after the first 6 months. The current analysis of the situation made us to decide to do another update of our forecast, and recently we've increased our forecast for this year and added 8 million zloty to the EBITDA profit. As you could see, we added 40 million from the flexible segment, flexible packaging segment, and the rest is mostly delivered by the extruded and to a smaller extent by aluminium, but each segment will improve the results. Therefore, we are coming close to half a billion zloty in the profit. In, and we are very happy about that. And today we believe that this forecast is realistic and will be delivered. Now moving back to the situation in the second quarter, well, we are showing you the situation in the cash flow. The second quarter, 100 million zloty of cash flows on operational activity, operating cash flows, and we've increased our need for capital by around 100 million zloty. We may say that 100 million zloty, but also 100 million zloty to increase the working capital. This was the consequence of the changing prices of raw materials, but also higher volumes of sales. We've spent 45 million zloty on the investments, and as an effect, a big one-off position. A little bit earlier this year in June, we've paid the first tranche of dividend, 129 million zloty, but the situation is safe. And we see that taking into account all the expenses with very strong Ebitda, our debt during the quarter increased by 86 million zloty. Another slide shows you the situation in our financial situation. 162 zloty, a slight growth in net debt as compared to last year. But these are the operating cash flows, 200 million zloty, and proportionally, just like in the first quarter, in the second quarter, we increased the need for our working capital. So during the first 6 months, 200 million zloty more in working capital. And now the debt maturity structure, that currency structure. Well, talking about the maturity of the loans, as you remember, last year we've renewed our loans, extending the maturity dates, and in fact, in autumn, just part of our debt will be renewed. And well, in the end, a few words about the coming months, about the third quarter. Well, we are seeing a strong demand, but still big fluctuations in the raw materials. The trends are changing, especially in aluminium. Seemed stable, but again growing prices. And in packaging polymers, then this trend has reversed. Today, the price is dropping, but the demand is high. And of course, still very high prices mean a pressure on our margins. But in this situation, for the past several quarters, we emphasize that the most important thing is to ensure that our production capabilities are there and we are efficient so that we can actually make use of this market situation. Now, investment plan, one comment. So firstly, as you can see, we've spent less than 100 million zloty during the first 6 months. The plan was 280 million zloty for 2021. So in the second half, the expenses will be bigger. Now, investment program. Well, it may add several dozen million zloty. So with some savings or changes in time, shifts in time that we've seen during the first 6 months, Well, it seems that the level of capex this year will be similar, and we are not changing our forecast. And now, general issues. Definitely, we are expecting that in our flexible products project that nothing will happen. Well, we will see what is the interest on the market, and according to that, we will take decisions. And other important issues that will contribute to the debt in the third quarter. By the end of August, we will pay the second tranche of dividend. This will be 300 million zloty. Thank you so much. Thank you. That was the last slide from the presentation. And now we are moving on to the Q&A part. Let me read some of the questions that were sent to my email address, and then we will go to the chat questions. So the first question is about the 2021 forecast. The current 2021 forecast by the board implicates the drop of EBITDA year on year, the decreased EBITDA. So, well, the forecasts for the market in August, do they show that this should be the basic scenario? When? In Q3 or Q4, you believe that the dynamics of EBITDA will become negative year on year? When will this happen? Yes, in fact, when we deduct the half year from the current results, then we will see that we want to deliver 120 million EBITDA, and last year that was around 340 million. Well, I would not like to go into detailed data, because with the scale of results this is comparable, but today we believe that the third quarter will be strong, and the fourth quarter is not coming with such good results forecasts. Well, as my colleagues have said, the prices are growing. Aluminium is the most expensive in the history, so we believe that these are the factors that may impact the margins and the demand. Well, last year was quite unique. Always the fourth quarter, especially the end of the year, was a more peaceful time, which translated into lower results. And last year that never happened. So the base that you are asking about was very high last year, but this is not a significant difference, around 20 million zloty. Thank you so much. 90% of capex from the current strategy is to be spent by 2023. Can you tell us more how much will be spent in 2021, 22, and 23? I understand that we are talking about the additional 250 million zloty. It seems so, because this is the updated strategy. Yes, definitely. Just as it was asked, practically we will spend the money by the end of 2023. This year up to 50, next year 100 million, and in 2023 it will also be around 100 million zloty. So 50, 100 and 100 million zloty will be spent in, so this will be even distribution, because we are talking about half a year this year. So proportionally this is how the distribution will go. So increased revenues and EBITDA by 2025 by 506 million and 76 million zloty in the strategic objectives 2025. Can you present us what is the share of individual segments? How do they contribute to this change? Well, I don't really want to give you precise numbers, but if you read our comment about 2025, you will see that we are maintaining or maybe improving the profitability when it comes to the extruded products. And the profitability, so 50 in extruded, 20 something in aluminium. So this is the proportion, 50 something, 20 something. Thank you. So effective tax during the second quarter, we are talking about 23%. Does it mean a higher effective tax in the scale of the year, or maybe this is a shift between quarters? Yes, thank you for this question because I did not comment on that. In the 6-month scale, this tax rate is normal. During the first quarter, it was less than 10 million zloty, 7 or 8 million zloty assets for the tax. And during the second quarter, doing the standard review, we written off a similar amount. So in the first quarter it was a little bit lower, and in the second quarter it was a little bit higher, but in the scale of half a year it was just normal. So in the second half of the year you can expect a normal tax rate. And I have two questions to Mr. Lechowicz, so please be active, stay with us. In the second quarter, in Q2, we are showing a lower use of production capability in the segment. How about this decrease? Is it because of the perturbant fluctuations on the raw materials market? And if yes, can this be translated into can this affect other quarters? Let me answer this question. This is the effect of the base. Let me remind you this because we are comparing to the Q2 2020, so the beginning of the pandemic, so a huge panic on the market. Well, so second half a year. No. It was about the quarter. So, ladies and gentlemen, the panic was really big, and the customers did not want to break the chain of deliveries of the raw materials. So everybody wanted to have the raw material, and they ordered more than they needed, and this is the result of that. This is not connected with the availability of the raw material. The availability, when it comes to the availability, our situation is very good. And now a question from one of the participants of the conference. What is the volume of paper processed by the segment, more or less? Well, I wouldn't like to answer this question because this is just one of the raw materials. This is minority. This is less than 10% share. These are not the granules. This is not the film. This is not the polypropylene. Thank you. So now, in connection with the process, this is mostly connected with the financial report. So the process of the Aluprof SA LSI in June 2021, will there be any write-offs or well, the company is being evaluated on ongoing basis in our reports. We are closing down our activity, so there is nothing special happening. When the winding up process will be ended by the end of the year. Thank you. In your report, you mention that the result may be affected by the fluctuation in the Ukrainian currency versus US dollar because the companies are settling in dollars. So what is the scale of settlements? Can this effect be significant? Because to our company we sell, there is no risk here, and our company is contracting contracts in dollars, so we are calculating according to the current rate. So there is no high foreign currency risk. Similar situation is the extruded products segment. Well, aluminium on the market is sold in US dollars. If there are other prices that the price they are denominated from dollar. So there, do I understand correctly that two new presses in extruded products segment will increase the capabilities by 28,000 tons, and the current capabilities are? So the answer is 92, not 24, as the participant said. It will be 2,000 tons plus 4,000 plus this will improve the efficiency by additional 4,000. Again, the sound quality is very bad. So 24,000 tons of capabilities came from the sales volume, but this is the quarterly volume, so you have to multiply it by 4. So the extruded product segments come with over 90% in a year, so we are increasing it by 30%. One more question. The salaries for the board paid in the first half of the year. This is about the bonuses for 2020. There is a comment there because indeed in the last year, as you remember, there was the meeting was later and the payment was in the second half of the year. One more question to Mr. Lechowicz. Truly fantastic results in the second quarter. And the question from the participant, how long can you maintain those results? Well, this is correlated with another question that I've seen on chat. Well, we haven't started the chat, but this is correlated. So those answers will be basically the same. Well, nothing lasts forever, ladies and gentlemen. As you can see, the fluctuations on the raw materials market are not as visible as between the fourth quarter of 2020 and Q1 and Q2 2021. And of course, some fluctuations give us some opportunities, and we make use of it and translate them into those amazing results. But the time of prosper is coming to an end. This is what we may say. Thank you so much. The question is for extruded product segment. I wanted to ask about the I wanted to ask about the duties, export duties. Are they in force already, and does that cover the products purchased by the company from Russian producers, from instance Ursala? So are we talking about Russian duties for Russian producers? So what is paid by Rusa, we are not feeling that right now, and the volume sent by that company is marginal. Of course, we have some conversations that it affects the market, but it's not significant yet because we have long-term contracts. In the future, it may affect us, but as at today, Rusen says that we will split the duty, but we don't really have any info about the proportions. At the moment, we are not affected. Thank you. Well, in the context of potential new contracts in automotive market, will there include price formulas, price indexing because of the long-term character, nature that they come? Yes, price formula in is included in the contract signed in automotive, and it includes LMI, LEVEC, and the processing bonus for the plant. So we are fully secured. Another question for flexible segment. how how the revenues of the segment in BOPP film were affected by the growing prices and the volume. How did those two elements affect the revenues of BOPP film? Please compare Q2 to Q1. Well, ladies and gentlemen, so the revenue gap between Q1 and Q2 was 40 million, up Q2 versus Q1, and talking volumes minus 9 million, but price plus 49 million. Is the current level of margin in the extruded products be maintained, or is it the effect of the situation, or maybe higher added margin? Does that come because is it the result of the valuation of inventories? Well, we don't see any threats to keep this level of margin. Well, what will happen in the fourth quarter? It's hard to say right now. With the demand that we have, it should be fine. The whole year showed us that with this high demand, we can have a good margin. Does Alupol see the possibility to increase the prices this year? Well, we've had two increases already, and we are observing our competitors in Poland and abroad, and we have to say that the price increases were lower among our competitors. It was a surprise to us. Maybe taking into account the trend and the high cost of the raw material, for instance, billets, we may be forced to introduce a third correction of prices by the end of the year, but we will definitely continue to observe the situation. We want to say anything definite. Another question for the aluminium segment. What is when we talk about aluminium systems, what is the biggest problem in availability? So paper or cardboard. So we use it for packaging, but this is another element of our logistical network. Even those kind of elements can be problematic, and their availability is not as good. We are using our position and the size of the company and long-term cooperation with many suppliers. And despite of those problems, well, the situation is difficult, and many of our other companies struggle to buy aluminium elements or granules or or resins, and there are a lot of elements that suffer shortages, and there is no normal availability on the market as we used to had, and well, that comes with the risk of some shortages. So definitely the capital that we use in the group is higher in order to secure our situation, but well, that makes us feel safer about the possibility to serve our customers. So with the scale of purchase of some elements for the systems from external companies, is it so high that we can have integration, vertical integration? Well, there are elements like that. Well, let's say, for instance, gaskets, seals. Well, we could actually manufacture the elements ourselves, but this is a completely different technology and process that we normally use, so we would not like to pretend that we are specialists because we are producing very specialized products. So it's not just about manufacturing process, but and we don't really want to operate like that. We are integrated vertically when it comes to the profiles, and that's enough. Another question about packaging. Yes, that was answered by Mr. Lechowicz. I'd like to add what contributed. Just two words. This is the question that I've said is correlated, but it's more in depth. During the first 6 months, there were two factors that affected margins. So lower availability of raw materials because the manufacturers of granules or polypropylene were quoting the force majeure. And if somebody wasn't secured enough, then we had the advantage because we were secured. Another thing was the Suez Canal, because that helped us, because our customers had problems with obtaining ready film from external, from outside, and we had it. So the situation is actually stabilizing, and the asker noticed that the margin in BOPP was 13%. Well, right now the margin is above the strategy. Thank you so much. And a general question about the investment program. What is the scale? How do you believe how much the prices will go in construction materials? Because you will be constructing halls and so on. Are you taking this risk into account with the current prices of construction material? Well, in our strategy, we believe that the situation will be stable. But with the update, we presented our current calculation about the construction work and how much they can cost. So the situation changes, varies, but this is what we've provided to you. It's hard to say about a long-term trend because what is happening on the construction market is very dynamic. And this is our calculation at the moment. This is what it is. Thank you. You made us used to that you go beyond your own forecasts in final results. And during this quarter, a different situation happened. Did you change the methodology in forecasting the results? Well, our approach is the same dates before the end of the month, but We are all aware that this is a manufacturing company, so estimating the results is not so easy. We have inventories with the dynamically growing prices of the raw materials, where our inventories are for 1 month, for 1.5 months of production. Well, something may change, and this year, this time we've delivered the results that we've estimated. Well, I don't know if this is positive or negative. I believe we are happy that this variation is not significant. Thank you so much. It seems that this is the last question. So thank you. I'd like to thank all of you for joining us today. I'd like to thank the management board and also Mr. Lechowicz, and I'd like to invite you to join us during the next meeting in 3 months. As Mr. Mańko has said, we hope that this will be a different meeting, and of course you will be able to hear the recording, I hope, because we have lots of technical problems today, and I hope that this recording succeeded, and we will publish it very soon on our website. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, and see you and hear you soon. Goodbye. I just wanted to say